Hello students! In the previous video, we discussed trigonometric ratios when theta is equal to 0. We saw how and why sine 0 is 0, cos 0 is 1 and tan 0 is 0. Again, sec 0 which is 1 upon cos 0 comes out to be 1. Cosec 0 which is also 1 upon sine 0 comes out to be not defined and cot also becomes not defined. Now what about these ratios when this angle is increased to its maximum 90? So let's see what happens to these ratios when it is made larger and larger in triangle AOB till it becomes 90. So what you can see here is that when we increase theta from 0 to 90, it is totally opposite of 0. Yes, recall this is when theta was 0. Sine and tan were reduced to 0, while cos increased to 1. Remember, sine and tan reduced and cos increased. This time, when theta is increased, the cos is reducing to 0 and sine and tan are increasing. Cos is reduced as we increase theta, which is what we have studied also. That theta and cos have inverse relation. So if theta is decreased, cos will increase and vice versa. This time if you see, the adjacent side reduces and becomes 0, while the opposite side and the hypotenuse coincide with each other. Again, we get a line and not a triangle. But differentiate. When theta was 0, line was horizontal on x-axis. When theta is 90, the line is vertical line on the y-axis. So it is exactly reverse of the previous one. There sine was 0 and cos increased to 1. Here cos is 0 and sine has increased to 1. Well, now let's see it in a triangle. Observe this triangle and how the sides changes with theta. As theta gets larger and larger, the length of the side OB goes on decreasing. Point O gets closer to point P. Finally, when angle is 90, the other angle becomes 0 and this side AO almost coincides with the side AB, which is again the line and no more triangle is there. Therefore, again we can say that making a triangle is impossible when theta is 90. And what we see is the line AB, which is same as OA. Okay, so what is AB or OA? Correct, it is 1 unit. We call this from our unit circle. This is the radius of the circle. So now for this AOB, we can say that OB is 0. OA equals to OB is equal to 1 unit. Now let's calculate the ratios. Sine 90 is opposite upon hypotenuse, which is equal to AB upon OA, which is 1 upon 1 equaling 1. Similarly, cos 90 is adjacent upon hypotenuse, which is 0, and tan 90 is again not defined because it is 1 upon 0. And cosec 90 is 1 upon sine 90, which is equal to 1. Similarly, sec 90 is not defined and cot 90 is 0. So let's put these values in the table that we have made. Hold on. Pause the video for a second and look at the values in the table carefully. What you see here is that we have written values for sec 90 and tan 90 as not defined, while same for cosec 0 and cot 0. Why is this so? Can any values have a thing something like not defined? Let's understand. Going back to our unit circle, what is cot and cosec theta here? Yes, cot is this distance, the distance between the point A where this tangent touches the circle and the point where it cuts the circle on the y-axis. Remember that it is y-axis and not x-axis. Similarly, cosec is the distance between this point O, the origin, and this point where the secant cuts the y-axis. Again, it is the y-axis and not the x-axis. So now when we reduce theta to 0, then this point shifts and it coincides with this point here. What do you see? Yes, now the tangent from this point has become parallel to the secant, that is y-axis. So there is no case of distance on y-axis, as this tangent is not at all cutting this secant. And that is why we say that cot and cosec are not defined, since there is no distance that can be measured. Now in future, when you will study something called infinitive, it will replace this not defined one. This is because, again, we say that parallel lines meet at an infinite distance. These two parallel lines, the secant and the tangent, parallel to it, will meet at the infinite distance on both the sides. And so cot and cosec will be infinite. Well, remember, both are right way of saying. Whichever is given in your textbook, you have to follow it. You can either say not defined or say infinity. So what we have seen is the values of trigonometric ratios for 0 and 90. In the next video, we will see them for 30 and 60.